What are you expecting about something of importance to your life? Have you ever wondered about the impact of your mindset? Many, if not all of us do, at some point. Welcome to this summary of the book, The Expectation Effect, 2022, by David Robson. This book investigates the relationship between our thoughts, bodies, and results. It investigates how our expectations impact our realities and demonstrates the extent to which self-fulfilling prophecies influence our lives. David Robson is a science journalist whose work has appeared in The Times, The Guardian, The Atlantic, and The Washington Post. His debut book, The Intelligence Trap, was published in 15 languages. You can find the summary of this book in another video from our playlist. The link is also at the description below. All right, let's get back to this book, The Expectation Effect, and discover the impact that expectations have on results. The concept of mind over matter seems to be applicable in practically every situation. In business, the phrase, "if you can dream it, you can do it," has nearly become the go-to mantra for entrepreneurs and inventors throughout the world. In sports, coaches emphasize the concept of mental toughness as a way to push our bodies beyond their physical boundaries. In medicine, simply being diagnosed as sick or well may make a huge impact in how our bodies feel. Consider this. Have you ever found yourself reading a list of symptoms for a disease only to experience each of those symptoms shortly after, even if they hadn't been there before? But imagined or not, the idea of mind over matter has always left one point unanswered. How much does our thought directly impact our reality? And to what degree can self-fulfilling prophecies genuinely influence our lives? David Robson, the author of this book, has an answer. Quite a bit. You'll learn how your mind functions as a strong prediction mechanism, ensuring that your reality meets your inner expectations. From the aging process to the impacts of medicine on your body, you'll discover how the power of the mind may influence your productivity, health, and future. In the following sections, we summarize the four main ideas, core messages and insights of the book, The Expectation Effect. 1. You have untapped mental stamina. When Barack Obama was president of the United States, he wore nearly identical suits every day. The only difference was the color. The outfits were either dark brown or navy blue. Obama isn't alone in his restricted outfit options. Many successful people like Steve Jobs, Ariana Huffington, and Mark Zuckerberg prefer to wear the same clothes every day. Why? It all depends on their expectations, but as you'll see in this summary, these expectations are completely incorrect. Obama and Zuckerberg dress the way they do because they want to avoid making needless decisions. For most of us, picking what to dress every morning involves deliberate thinking. Do these pants match the shirt? Are these the finest shoes to go with this jacket? According to the notion of ego depletion, we only have a limited number of mental resources to make decisions with each day. After a certain amount of hard effort, decision-making, or challenging thinking, such resources are depleted. With this in mind, these leaders do not want to waste mental energy on deciding what to dress. On the surface, the ego depletion theory appears to make sense. After all, how many times have you gone home from a long day's work and been too weary to do anything but sleep on the couch? Some specialists have even argued that successful people cheat on their relationships because they have exhausted their mental willpower in their careers. They just do not have the ability to work on their relationships. But how accurate is any of this? Because other data implies that the ego depletion theory is simply a large expectation effect. The mental tiredness we experience after working hard is genuine, but only because we expect it to be. That is, according to a research conducted by Austrian psychologist Veronika Job. The job required participants to perform two tasks in a succession. Before beginning the first activity, Job questioned each participant if hard labor generally depletes or energizes their mental resources. Interestingly, Job discovered that those who had described hard labor as tiring performed much worse on the second test than on the first. Those who described hard labor as invigorating, on the other hand, fared equally well on both tasks. This may appear to be a foreseeable consequence, but in a subsequent research, Job investigated if it was feasible to influence people's ideas and expectations about their own mental exhaustion. So in the following trial, participants read one of two statements before completing the two tasks. One statement suggested that hard labor depletes our mental resources, while the other asserted the opposite, that hard work has been shown to revitalize our minds so much that it allows us to thrive on additional difficult jobs once we begin. Job discovered that participants who read the energizing message did twice as well on their second assignment as those who received the depleting remark, all because their expectations had changed. This merely goes to prove that our brain power is far larger than most of us realize. With the correct expectations, we can do more. So the next time your focus wanes in the middle of a difficult work, try to recall a moment when a difficult task felt exhilarating rather than depleting. Then consider if that invigorating endeavor was objectively more difficult than the task you're currently working on. Reframing your perspective on the difficult work at hand will provide you with the mental fortitude you need to complete it. So as we can see here, whether it is a white or blue-collar job that requires mental and physical labor, our mental expectations can determine our attitude and corresponding results. And sure enough, even in working with our relationships, with the right expectations and hope, can propel us to focus on problem solving rather than blaming our circumstances or others. 2. Placebos are strong medications with several potential advantages. In the 19th century, U.S. President Thomas Jefferson was uncertain about the morality of lying to patients. However, he believed that placebos could be beneficial for patients. The first modern evidence of the benefits of placebos was collected by military doctor Henry Beecher during World War I. Beecher discovered that a wounded soldier's pain could be effectively treated with a simple saline solution, which was about 90% as effective as the real drug. This reduced the risk of cardiac arrest during surgery without anesthesia. Since Beecher's discovery, placebos have been shown to have powerful effects, such as in people with Parkinson's disease. Many of its symptoms are caused by a lack of dopamine in the brain, and existing medications boost dopamine levels, providing relief. However, when people with Parkinson's are given placebo drugs, their symptoms can improve by up to 30%. This may be due to the patient's expectations. Experts now believe that our brains act as the body's internal pharmacy, releasing biochemical substances that affect the body much like the real drug would. In the case of Parkinson's, the patient's brain may have released more of its own dopamine or a dopamine-like substance. Evidence for the pharmacy theory comes from a study that looked into placebo painkillers. Researchers believed that receiving a morphine placebo would stimulate patients' brains into creating their own natural painkillers, known as opioids. To test this theory, patients were also given another substance at the same time as the placebo, which effectively blocked opioid receptors in the brain. The researchers found that the placebo morphine really was stimulating the brain to produce its own opioids. However, not all placebos have the same effect on us. Studies have found that larger placebo pills produce a more beneficial effect than smaller ones, and placebos in the form of injections are even more beneficial than pills. The biggest placebo effect is seen after surgery. To apply this knowledge to your own health, visualize the positive effects of medication, ask your physician about its workings, and talk to other patients who have used the same medication and found it effective. By doing so, you can increase the chances that placebos will bring benefits to you. 3. Negative expectations can have severe consequences, as seen in the case of a man who was diagnosed with terminal esophageal cancer. His doctor doubted his survival, leading to his death just weeks later. The doctor's prognosis had killed him, as he had expected to die around Christmas that year. Negative expectations can also harm our health by causing perceived side effects to real medications. For example, finasteride, a medication used to treat enlarged prostates, can cause erectile dysfunction, up to 3 times more likely for men when explicitly warned about it. Similar effects have been found in aspirin, with patients who were told about potential side effects being 6 times more likely to stop treatment. To prevent harmful expectations from taking root, one can reframe their thinking around the chances of experiencing an unpleasant side effect. For example, if 1 in 10 patients suffers from a certain side effect, remind yourself that 90% of patients didn't experience it, making the odds of suffering relatively low. This simple reframing of expectations could prevent the body from needlessly developing these side effects on its own. Negative expectations can have a significant impact on our health, leading to self-destructive behaviors and potentially fatal outcomes. It is crucial to recognize and address these negative expectations to maintain a healthy lifestyle and avoid harmful side effects. 4. The author reaffirmed the notion that age is only a number. Patty Jones enjoys dancing salsa, not just any salsa, acrobatic salsa. This type of dancing involves swinging through the air on trapezes, which needs exceptional agility and poise. She and her dancing partner Nico have performed on television talent programs all around the world, from the United Kingdom to Argentina. However, Jones's remarkable salsa movements aren't the only reason she's a dancing superstar. It also has something to do with her age. Guess what? She is 85 years old, still adept at acrobatic salsa. Jones will tell you that dancing acrobatic salsa at the age of 85 does not feel difficult. Why? Because she does not feel like she is in her 70s at all. Inside, she feels much younger, and she intends to behave as such. And that makes sense. Evidence from Harvard University researchers reveals that how old we feel has a significant impact on our talents, health, and even looks. For example, in 1979, Harvard psychologist Ellen Langer performed a research in which men and women aged 70 to 80 were invited to spend a week-long vacation at a remote monastery. However, this was not just any monastery. Langer's staff had already turned back the clock 20 years before the guests arrived. They decorated each area as if it were 1959, including displaying periodicals and newspapers from that year. They also invited their visitors to spend the week debating political and sports events from 1959 as if they were happening now rather than in the past. Finally, they requested the visitors to write a biography of their life in 1959, describing everything they did that year. Most essential, this biography needed to be written in the present tense. The idea was to make the guests feel as if they were in 1959, not 1979, and 20 years younger than their actual age. After the initial group of visitors had returned home, Langer's crew invited another group of 70 to 80-year-olds. This group likewise spent a week at the monastery, but they spoke about events from 1959 in the past tense. This was intended to give them the impression that 1959 was indeed 20 years ago, and that they were still their genuine ages of 70, 80-year-olds. After both groups' visits, Langer's team analyzed a battery of health and cognition tests administered before and after their monastery experiences. The findings were startling. After a week of envisioning themselves to be 20 years younger, the first group fared much better on cognitive tests than before their time at the monastery. Not only did their vision improve, but so did their joint flexibility and arthritic inflammation levels. To top it all off, when independent observers who were not involved in the research viewed images of this group taken shortly after their monastery holiday, they scored them as appearing much younger than photos of the same group taken only a week earlier. Many of them claimed that it was related to their posture. Following the research, they looked to walk taller and more effortlessly than before. However, the second set of guests, who were not encouraged to envision themselves living in the past, noticed practically none of these benefits. So in the end, maybe age is just a number. In summary, your mind is an effective instrument in the fight against disease, idleness, and even aging. Visualizing favorable outcomes for oneself increases the likelihood that they will become a reality. You may not be able to imagine yourself into being healthy or youthful, but you can surely create the ideal mental environment to help you thrive. To put this into practice in your daily life, here's a brief bit of an actionable step. Find a way to channel the high expectations. Maintaining a cheerful attitude on a continuous basis is difficult. Some people attempt to discover something practical to guide their mentality. Some athletes carry a fortunate charm they believe can give them a positive boost. They believe that. Focusing their expectations on this one lucky object may offer them with the positive boost they need to make a meaningful impact, and that a little superstition may go a long way if they believe in it. Yet, as we all know, these athletes train hard to get there. In relationships, couples wear their wedding rings to remind them of their vows and dedication to each other. And also, as we all realize, relationship is an ongoing journey of choosing to love each other each day. Some Christians wear cross necklace to remind them of their faith in resurrected Savior, Jesus Christ. And as we are aware, the cross necklace mean nothing if we don't anchor our minds and faith in the positive teachings of Jesus Christ. Whether you have a visible object at hand or not, One valuable insight we can take away from this book summary is for us to capture every thought in submission to positive expectations, both in the great events or mundane parts of our lives, in whatever age you are in. Remember the author's affirmation that age is only a number and that positive expectations can lead to more experiences of life. Indeed, your mindset can change your world. If you resonate with this video, please share some love. Hit that like button and share it with others who may find it useful. Subscribe now to join us in this wonderful book journey that can help transform our lives and narratives. Thanks for watching, and see you in our next or other videos.